Critical race theory is a legal perspective rooted in the civil rights movements of the 1960s and 70s. Many have credited Derek Bell as being the father of critical race theory. Critical race theory scholars as a whole challenge the liberalist claims of objectivity, neutrality, and colorblindness of the law and argues that these principles actually normalize and perpetuate racism by ignoring the structural inequalities that permeate social institutions. General Mission seeks to analyze, deconstruct, and transform for the better the relationship among race, racism, and power. One of the tenets of critical race theory is that racism is ordinary, not aberrational. It is rooted in people's subconscious and deeply institutionalized. It can occur when someone is looked over for a promotion or when a woman clutches her purse in proximity of a colored person. Theorists also believe that racism is prevalent and that it cannot be overcome in our current legal or structural system. In order to balance the scales of inequality, the scales have to be unbalanced to favor the minorities and disenfranchised groups. So another tenet of critical race theory is the idea of differential racialization. So this is the idea that dominant in social discourses and people in power can racialize groups of people in different ways at different times depending on historic, social, or economic need. For example, various Asian Americans were once viewed as unthreatening during the construction of railroads, and indeed were viewed even as favorable when a large and expensive labor force was needed. Over time, the financial independence and success of Asian American groups appeared threatening to the national economy. These groups were then demonized in popular discourse and excluded from citizenship by law. And even now, today, third revision, these Asian Americans are considered a model minority. Another group who has been similarly targeted are Mexican and Latino immigrants who were once viewed as a favorable workforce but then excluded legally from citizenship. Only now is there some sort of push towards legalizing these immigrant groups. A third tenet of critical race theory is the idea of interest convergence. Now, this simply put states that decisions regarding equity and civil rights are more likely to occur when the subordinate group can align its interests with the dominant group. A popular example given of this is Brown versus Board of Education, which in essence knocked down separate but equal and desegregated schools. However, it was also seen as a move by the government to ingratiate itself with international agendas and strengthen their cause for the fight against communism. In addition, there's a revisal called Brown 2 stating that the school should desegregate with, and this is quoting, all deliberate speed, which in essence many feel render the decision mute, as many schools today are still indeed segregated. A fourth tenet of critical race theory is the concept that stories and counter-narratives help explain perspective. Now, considering that dominant groups' accounting of history routinely excludes racial and other minority perspectives to justify and legitimize its power, it therefore becomes imperative to bring narratives of the disenfranchised into account in order to challenge liberals' claims of neutrality, color blindness, and universal truths. A fifth and final tenet of critical race theory is the concept of intersectionality. Now, critical race theory acknowledges the intersectionality of various oppressions and suggests that the primary focus on race can eclipse other forms of exclusions. Coalitions have greater power to affect social change. However, addressing broad concerns over individual experiences can force people into choosing a singular identity, leaving other aspects of their oppression unaddressed. Examples of these can be issues regarding gender, sexual identity, or personal beliefs.